Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Ryan Bonazzo.
And I'm Catalina Gillies. Options to sort out the designated truck route controversy have yielded a new proposal from a Southside City Councillor.
The Nebing Ward's Cody Fraser says he's willing to sacrifice his own political capital in order to find a way forward and allow the trucks to remain on Arthur Street if it will get them off of Dawson Road. 4 options were provided by city staff last night, and several council members will need to change their stance in order to finally move forward. The DTR, meant to get transport trucks off of Dawson Road and Arthur Street, has essentially been in limbo since the initial vote to implement it in 2019. The proposed bylaws have been struck down by council, leaving administration at a standstill. Councillors who are in favor of the DTR want to have it in place before their term expires next year. Fraser referenced the latest fatal crash on Highway 102 as a reason to move forward, even if it means allowing the transports to keep traveling along Arthur Street, which is within his own ward boundaries.
So if a member of council who is interested in possibly changing their vote based on my suggestion here, I'd appreciate it if they would reach out and have a conversation with me about what we can possibly do here.
Neighboring municipalities of Oliver Papoonge, Conmee and O'Connor have long objected to the DTR, saying it could force up to 1,500 additional trucks through the town of Kekabeka Falls. Fraser's idea could cut that number in half.
Meanwhile, the city is moving towards a plan to add sewer infrastructure to a large subdivision off of West Arthur Street. City Council agreed to add more money to next year's draft budget to explore a 3-kilometer extension of the sewer line from Parkdale to a subdivision near Maple Ward Road. Corey Nordstrom has more.
The city of Thunder Bay could spend up to $400,000 for studies to expand its sewer infrastructure west of the Parkdale subdivision. Council voted Monday to include an additional $180,000 in next year's draft budget for a secondary study on the project.
The conclusion of the study wouldn't say when this should occur as much as if it's going to, here's how it should occur.
Nadine Contracting has already offered the city $3 million to extend sewer lines to a parcel of their land near Maple Ward Road. The job would require upgrading of the lines as well to account for hundreds of new residences, and although the majority of the work would be covered by the private sector, over $1 million would still be needed from the city.
750 millimeter diameter sewer is needed to service the lands as a whole, so more than, or rather double the size of a sewer. So the city's current practice for oversizing is that we pick up the difference in that cost.
But some city councillors were hesitant on the project that would go against their goals of urban infill and also add to the spread of city services without guaranteeing the area is developed further aside from Nadine's property.
Are we going to build another mouth to feed? What I'm not interested in is a plan that comes back and says we have $1 million road with $200,000 of tax assessment, because that is what we've done before, and in my opinion, that is not the future I see for Thunder Bay.
Is there a danger that, the properties on the far distance get developed first, nothing in the middle, and it becomes really a drain on public coffers?
There's definitely a risk that the lands won't get developed. Let's be quite honest about it. But there's also an opportunity that the lands will be.
The secondary plan would take about a year to complete, though the funds for the plan will still need to be solidified during the budget process in January and February.
Houses aren't going up next year. They're not going up the year after. I want to make that very clear to everybody, and I think it's really important to highlight that.
Corey Nordstrom, TVT News.
2 men have been charged with forcible confinement in connection with a home takeover on the city's south side. Thunder Bay Police were dispatched to the 1900 block of Frederica Street yesterday afternoon. Officers learned the homeowner was prevented from answering their door while the 2 accused trafficked drugs out of the home. A 45-year-old Montreal man and a 32-year-old man from Fort McMurray, Alberta, have been remanded into custody.
The Ontario Provincial Police have peacefully resolved a standoff at a residence in the Pass Lake area. which lasted more than 9 hours. Police received calls about an armed man who had barricaded himself in his house. It started around 3 o'clock this morning on Portage Road off Highway 587. Thunder Bay OPP officers were joined at the scene by the emergency response team and the tactics and rescue unit. Initial attempts to contact the 35-year-old man were unsuccessful, so the area was marked off and contained for safety reasons. An OPP crisis negotiator was later called in to speak with the man. After some negotiations, he voluntarily surrendered to police without altercation around 12:45 this afternoon. OPP Sergeant Mike Golding says he's proud of his team efforts to resolve the situation.
I'd just like to acknowledge the fact that our members, the professionalism and the excellent work done by the Thunder Bay Police, Thunder Bay OPP, the emergency response team, and our negotiators for the successful conclusion and peaceful resolution of this event.
The reasons behind the standoff are still to be determined, and it's unclear at this point whether any charges will be laid. Golding says it was likely a personal matter which can be dealt with by the family.
Meanwhile, the OPP's Criminal Investigation Branch is assisting Treaty 3 police in a sudden death investigation on the White Dog First Nation north of Kenora. Police were called early Saturday morning about an injured person at a residence. The victim was pronounced dead at the scene and has now been identified as 17-year-old Trent Hunter. While the circumstances of death have yet to be confirmed, police are treating it as suspicious. Sergeant Mike Golding says the investigation is intricate, with a number of agencies involved in the case.
A number of other specialty units were also involved, including the major case investigative team, the emergency response team, our forensic identification team, the Northwest Region Crime Unit. So it's a very big investigation, and at this time we're determining that the investigation, the death is suspicious.
A post-mortem examination is scheduled for tomorrow in Toronto. Anyone with information about the case is asked to contact OPP or Crime Stoppers.
A Winnipeg resident faces a number of charges after being arrested in a stolen vehicle with $500,000 worth of cocaine inside. Ignace OPP officers first tried to pull over the speeding vehicle on Highway 17 on Friday morning, but the driver didn't stop. Police discontinued the chase due to public safety concerns. The vehicle was later pulled over in Zealand Township, east of Dryden. That's when officers found the drugs and also the cash. The accused is still in custody.
The Thunder Bay District Health Unit has declared a COVID-19 outbreak at Elsie McGill Public School after 2 people there tested positive for the virus. Meanwhile, the outbreak at the Memowenchike Family Development Center at St. Anne's School is now over. That outbreak was declared on December 1st. All of this comes as the COVID numbers in our district continue to move in a positive direction. There are 7 new infections today, but 14 others have been resolved. All of the new cases come from the Thunder Bay area. There's 1 household close contact and 3 close contact cases from outside the home. 3 exposure sources are still unknown at this time. There are now 64 active cases across the district, down from 71 yesterday.
Nearly 7,000 vaccine doses were administered last week across the TBDHU's catchment area. 5,100 of those were third doses. Nearly 1,500 were first doses, and 300 second doses were given out. According to the Ministry of Health, 86% of people 5 and up in the district have gotten at least 1 shot, and 80 are fully vaccinated.
To the Northwestern Health Unit now, where the case count there is on the rise. 11 new infections have been reported today. 5 are in the Rainy River District, 4 come from the Kenora area, and 2 are in the Dryden-Red Lake region. The NWHU now has 25 active cases, 8 more than yesterday.
Ontario is reporting 1,429 new cases today as the positivity rate for the disease climbs to 6.6%, the highest level since mid-May. The Chief Medical Officer of Health says Omicron is rapidly becoming the dominant strain in the province. In an effort to slow the spread, the province has announced new visitor restrictions at long-term care homes. Colin DeMello has more.
Ontario is on the verge of an Omicron overload.
Data suggests that each Omicron case is infecting 4 to 8 times more individuals than the Delta variant.
Today, the province's top doctor says Ontario can no longer take any chances.
We're planning for the worst, so equal to Delta, Hoping is not a strategy.
The immediate changes will impact long-term care. Beginning today, anyone who is unvaccinated will be prevented from entering a long-term care home. That means children 11 and younger will not be able to spend time with their grandparents in a nursing home over the holidays. Then, as of Friday, all staff will have to be tested twice per week, while visitors will have to test negative before coming in. Finally, life inside the long-term care home is about to change. Residents can only have 2 visitors at a time. Cohorting for activities and in the dining room will once again resume, and overnight absences are off the table. Measures that are also being extended to retirement homes as well.
We are strongly encouraging retirement homes to restrict general visitors to only those that are fully vaccinated.
Next, the province is focusing on its vaccination strategy as some public health officials issue new warnings.
Get your vaccines, get ready, because Omicron, it's not a question of if, it's when.
The demand on the vaccination clinics is intensifying. Yesterday, nearly 100,000 people received a COVID-19 vaccine, and the healthcare sector is ramping up capacity.
That really means a lot of the healthcare system will be redeploying yet again and working with our family physicians and vaccination teams and a whole number of other initiatives in order for that infrastructure to respond rapidly so we can inoculate as many people as possible.
Finally, Dr. Kieran Moore says the previous strategy to curb COVID-19 is out.
The previous strategy on regional approaches was Delta-driven, and as you know, Omicron is becoming a game changer for all of us.
Premier Doug Ford will meet with his cabinet tomorrow morning. Sources say they'll consider a number of measures, including limiting social gatherings, reintroducing capacity limits on certain sectors of the economy, and potentially expanding the proof of vaccination requirements.
You know, no one wants another lockdown. No one wants any more restrictive measures. So that's why we're on a campaign to encourage people to go out and get their booster shot so that they have full protection.
More than 1.2 million Ontarians have had a 3rd dose so far.
Today marked the start of the Christmas cheer hamper distribution at the CLE grounds. Things were a little more spread out this year due to COVID-19 restrictions, but that didn't get in the way of successfully providing food and toys to families in need this holiday season. Danielle Bain reports.
It is if we could say perfect, this is a perfect day.
Volunteers with the Christmas Cheer Fund were handing out holiday hampers to local families from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the first of 2 busy days at the CLE Heritage Building. The chair of Christmas Cheer, Jolene Kemp, says despite the obstacles of the pandemic, day one couldn't be going any smoother.
It's a perfect way to do this in a very upside-down time for us. We've got all of our hampers are packed, so that saves a lot of time. We've got all of the toys are out, and we've got sufficient volunteers.
Each hamper is filled with a week's worth of food, along with items provided by the firefighters' Toys for Tots campaign. Volunteers from outside the 2 organizations included members of the Cam River Fighting Walleye and numerous other individuals, including volunteer Amanda Nistico, who was happy to see the incredible turnout of people willing to help.
Well, it's hard to see the demand, but it's great to see everybody coming together, like I said, and people coming in and still trying to make the season bright, even though it's hard with everything going on. You see a lot of higher risk people, but they're vaccinated and they're still willing to come out, which means a lot.
As for this year's fundraising campaign, Christmas Cheer has been able to collect just over $250,000 to help pay for the food going into next year's hampers. Kemp says one of the most heartwarming things was to see donations flooding in from kids across the city.
The children in Thunder Bay have been absolutely fantastic. They're nickels, dimes, quarters, loonies, and toonies. They just keep coming, and they're so excited to be able to do it.
Kemp is anticipating that they'll be able to feed about 8,000 people this year and provide toys for around 4,000 people as well. After calculating the expected demand, she thinks they'll be right on track in terms of supply and expects everything to be gone by the end of day 2 on Wednesday. Danielle Bain, TBT News.
Officials with Dalico and Nishnawbik Family Care have announced that their 13th annual Christmas Wish campaign was another big success. More than 700 children will receive wish bags this holiday season. With help from the community, the wish bags overflowed with gifts this year for babies, children, and youth to help make wishes come true. The Delico elves have been able to personalize each bag for every child, taking into account their interests, ages, and Christmas wishes. This also ensured the donors knew exactly where their contributions were going. Delico director Tina Bobinski spoke about the impact of this campaign at Christmas time.
Well, it's really, really important. It's really about bringing the community together for a common cause, and it's about taking care of our children and making sure that our children have a gift under the tree year after year. And so, you know, it's been really nice to engage the community and have so many individual community members, families, businesses, and organizations participate and fill a bag for kids.
Since launching in 2008, the Delico Christmas Wish campaign has been able to provide 6,400 wish bags to children, youth, and babies in need.
Yeah, so many great charitable